What's going on, y'all, and welcome on in. In this video, let's go ahead and pick up where we left off, talking about gearing, especially following up. Let's do a part 2 to my equipment conversion guide. I don't want to talk about it or keep it just locked down to equipment conversion right here, but I will use this as a tool to show the main stats and substats that you want to be looking out for different styles of units. Mainly, we can break it down into offensive and defensive units. Now, within those categories, offensive and defensive, there are some nuanced styles of units like debuffers. There'll be things like attack main stat units, defense scaling units. I'll try to reference them when I can, but let me know, guys, if you would like a specialized video, because I want to keep this as simple as possible and cover like 95% of the cast, and we'll save the other 5% outliers like Fire Charlotte, who doesn't want crit damage. So Hawk is kind of like that too, guys. I can make a video catered just to them. A lot of them are kind of meta, but in this one, let's just keep it in generalities where it'll fit and cover 90% of the cast, 95% of the cast, whatever. So that way, when you guys are looking for gear, we can keep it as simple as possible. And you can remember only the important stuff, okay? But just to tie that in line, there is a crafting event going on, guys. Refer to any of my older guides and let me know how the crafting event is going for y'all, okay? I did end up claiming this. I don't even want to show you guys, my YouTube audience, what I crafted because I'm kind of heartbroken over it. I rushed it. Remember, if you watch any of my other guides, I say wait till the very end of the hunt event, or the crafting event, excuse me, which will end at the almost 3rd week of December. And you can get as many rerolls as possible. Don't settle. Always go for the perfect piece. I opted for a pen set attack percent ring. And by the way, guys, the only difference I'll say between my advice right now and any of my older, I think I have 2 other Artena equipment crafting event guides, would be that I really recommend trying for pen set if you're not already farming like a lot of KDs. Only because I know you only need 2 pieces of this in exchange compared to like speed set or counter set, which we'll need 4 pieces of. But with the difficulty of KDs and the fact that a lot of y'all won't be farming it just yet, I think picking this up is very important because there's so many units nowadays, guys. Apocalypse Robbie, Little Queen Charlotte, Zahak, Spirit Eye Celine, just to name a few. I'm telling you, even Alencia, after her EE, people are thinking about getting pen set. It is the real deal. You need to get a lot of these sets. Green Violet, Remnant Violet. I would really recommend picking up a right side pen set piece, only because you're going to need so many, and a lot of y'all have already been farming a ton of Wyvern. So, that's for another video, though. Let's go ahead and talk about the main stat. Oh, I'll show y'all real fast. I was trying to avoid showing y'all. Luckily, I have a unit that can make good use of it. Remember I was talking about nuanced units? So, Remnant Violet would be one where hitting this much flat defense is kind of, a lot of y'all would be very upset, right? Because obviously we would rather have a lot of speed, a lot of crit damage, a lot of crit chance. Or I could have went for like a health percent or defense percent, which would have fit a lot more units better. Luckily though, there are units in the game that don't mind flat defense, and units like Remnant Violet, which actually prefer flat defense. That's more of a nuanced thing though, and this is not a universal piece. This is really just good for him or some other thieves. All right, so a little bit of a heartbreaker, but luckily we can use it on someone. I don't recommend crafting this type of item. All right, without further ado, guys, enough rambling. Let's go ahead and talk about the main stats and substats you're going to be looking for. So let's start with next, and we're going to kind of speed through this, but it'll be neat and concise, and you guys can just refer back to it when you need to. So for next, guys, let's start with offensive pieces. The main universal stat is critical hit damage, and that goes for most sets, okay? We're talking about speed set, lifesteal set, counter set. Crit damage is the main one because it is hard to get a lot of crit damage subs on your other pieces. And crit damage, 70% is just a huge amount to have on one item, the necklace. Now, there's a lot of units that are coming up that have a lot of built-in crit chance, like Zahak, have crit imprints like Spirit Eye Celine, that don't crit, whatever it might be. Crit damage is, that's why we consider this a universal piece, on top of the fact that it's much easier to get a lot of crit damage subs, or it's a lot harder to get crit damage subs than trying to make up all those crit damage subs by using a critical hit chance piece. But let's move on after crit damage, and let's go ahead and write on the screen the universal substats we want for an offensive unit. If we're not really talking about a specialized bruiser, we just want a offensive unit, namely glass cannon. We want attack percent, and this is with the crit damage net, guys. Attack percent, speed, critical hit chance, and the last one can be flat attack if it's pure glass cannon, or you can venture into health percent, defense percent, maybe even flat defense as your 4th sub, right? But attack percent for sure, speed for sure, and critical hit chance for sure if you're going for crit damage neck. Now, secondary, you could go for a crit chance neck. However, this is not something I recommend until you're much later in the game, because you will need to make up a lot of crit damage substats on your other pieces of gear, which a lot of people don't have access to yet. But understand, in the late game, this is one of the most efficient items to use, and if you can make good use of a crit chance neck, I believe it's 55% crit chance after reforge, it'll help you get to that 100% crit or however much you want, alongside just being very stat efficient. So this would be a follow-up, but this is more of an advanced tech. I really recommend crit damage next until you know what you're doing. And with all those crit chance units coming aboard like Zahak, this kind of loses some value in terms of universal usage. All right. Any other offensive stats, maybe attack percent, but those would cover the nuanced or the more niche units like Senya, like Fire Carrot, and I'll save that for another video. All right, for defensive necklaces, really the only main stat you're looking for is health percent. Health percent versus defense percent, we can talk about that real fast. Defense percent is just not quite as good. There's a lot more health scaling units. Health is just a much better stat, especially with all the defense penetration units flying around. However, if you have a really nice rolled defense main stat neck with a lot of health percent subs, you could use it, okay? But for general rule of thumb, if you have a choice, guys, opt for health percent necks. If it's most of the casts, much easier. And for a defensive neck, guys, and remember, we're trying to keep this simple, guys. If you have any advanced techniques, comments, please leave in the comments below. But I want to keep these as simple as possible. For health percent necks, we want to look for speed, defense percent, effect resist. If it's a effect resist unit, and most of the defensive units, guys, we will want some effect resist, namely soldiers and knights. And then last but not least, we could go flat defense or flat health if we have nothing else we want. If there's no other kind of effectiveness or some kind of weird, depends on the unit, but the safe ones, right? Health percent main stat, we're looking for speed, defense percent, effect resist percent, and then any other last flat or effectiveness, whatever you might want for the fourth sub, okay? Could be crit chance if you're going for a little bruiser, a little spice it up, but that'll be up to you guys. So that's really, that should cover both offensive and defensive necklaces. Next up, we got the rings, and the rings are a little bit similar. For the offensive pieces, guys, the main, really the only optimal option for offensive pieces is attack percent. So that's mainly for all damage units, and we're not talking about bruisers. We're going to go for attack percent ring, okay? I'll cover bruisers when we talk about health percent, maybe a little more defensive. But attack percent ring main stat, it's really the only offensive option, pure offensive option. Flat attack, guys, try to ignore it. Remember, we're keeping things simple. If you have a flat attack main stat ring that you somehow found, don't craft these. But if you have extra that you want to try your luck and you get insane substats, it could be worth it. Just understand most of the units in the game now, there's very few exceptions that are better on flat attack, and they're not even worth remembering. Just don't even bother. Attack percent is the king. But if you get something with crazy substats, you know, you can make it work. So attack percent main stat, the substats we're going to want to look for. Let's write on the screen. Attack percent main stat ring. Offensive, we're going to want to look for speed, critical hit chance percent, critical damage percent, and then last but not least, we could do flat attack, or if we want to venture a little bit into bruiser territory, want a little bit of health just so we don't die, health percent, defense percent would be the main two, okay? So with flat attack, health percent, or defense percent are really the ones you want to look for. Now for defensive options, or excuse me, guys, you know what? I want to add this in. I was talking about damaging units, but effectiveness, we could consider that offensive or control. Let's make this its own category. Effectiveness main stat ring is very nice. I wouldn't advise doing a crafting event for this where you can craft your own perfect piece of gear. But if you want equipment converting, your Angel of Angelicas, your Fairy Tale Tenebrias, units like that, Fairy Tale Tenebria coming very soon, guys. Effectiveness main stat is very good. It's almost mandatory if we want to start debuffing those high ER units, and we're going to want to on AOL and Fairy Tale Tenebria. So effective main stat ring is almost mandatory, usually on a speed set, and the subs we're going to want to look for could be just mainly speed, and then usually we'll want a little bit of bulk, health percent, defense percent. Almost anything will work. The main thing is just speed, and then the effectiveness main stat. Bulk is always nice too. I forgot to mention that, sorry guys. And then for the defensive stats, same thing for the next guys. Health percent is king. We want to look for main stat health percent, defense percent, substat, speed substat. You're getting a trend, guys. Speed substat on almost everything, as well as effect resist. And then the fourth substat can be anything you want. Flat defense, flat health, effectiveness, whatever unit it might be. Another option, and this is only on rings, is effect resist. Just like effectiveness, this could be very important for those high effect resist units you want to use to cleanse. Think units like Maid Chloe, like Angelic Montmorency. This is a very good way of getting a just ton of effect resist. So the substats we're going to look for if we go for a ring with effect resist main stat would be health percent, defense percent, speed, and then the fourth substat of your choice. One note on effect resist, guys, make sure you don't lack a lot of bulk, because remember, you'll be changing out health percent and you'll be lacking a lot of bulk, but you need to make that up, and you will need that effect resist on the main debuffing unit, so there's no way around it. Last but not least, I guess we can talk about defense percent. It's the same thing with next, guys. There's a few outliers. Let's say units like Fighter, Maya, Designer, Lilibet that maybe want defense percent main stat, but overall, don't worry about it for now. Those are very few and far between, and they're honestly not really meta. For health percent, I was talking about health percent defensive rings, guys. Of course, remember, and I'm trying to leave this out because it gets a little convoluted, but when we talk about units like bruisers, let's say Apocalypse Ravi, for example, if we go health percent main stat ring on Apocalypse Ravi, which is pretty good, because even though she wants attack, she doesn't want a ton, we could go for a health percent main stat ring, but go for crit chance, crit damage, attack percent, and then maybe speed, right? So keep in mind, bruisers can swap the main stat if it's defensive or offensive, but I'll save that for that nuanced video. All right, guys, last but not least, and we'll wrap it up here because this one's very simple. Boys, if you haven't noticed, almost every item we want has substatus speed. Why? Because speed is one of the most important stats in the game. There are very few units that want 0 speed. Off the top of my head, I think it's really just Seaside Bellona, Martial Artist Ken possibly, and units like Little Queen Charlotte. Even though it's not 0 speed, a lot of people opt for a slower speed, so we can go like things like attack percent boots. But of course, these are niche units which they don't fit into the 90% gearing category that I want to cover. For boots, guys, the king by far is main stat speed for every single unit almost, okay? Except for those few exceptions I just listed. This is your king. This is going to be the most used gem, and especially in the beginning of the game, this is what you want to focus on. You want as many speed boots as possible. For offensive subs, guys, since it's speed main stat, we're going to want attack percent, crit chance percent, crit damage percent, and then the fourth sub can be flat attack if it's glass cannon, or opt for health percent or defense percent. If it's a defensive unit, guys, speed main stat, we're going to want health percent, defense percent, typically effect resist percent if it's a Soul Eater or Knight, and then last, we can use whatever you want, flat defense, flat health, effectiveness, depends on what unit it is, right? Defense, same thing as the other categories, and even then, the defensive scaling units like Pillis will still probably want speed boots. So speed is the king here. It is by far the most used main stat on boots, and without exception, or I guess with a few exceptions, we want to have 90% of our boots being like speed for sure. All right. Anyways, guys, yeah, let me know if you want to follow up with that kind of the weird gearing units like Charlotte, like Senya, units that don't want crit chance, units that want maybe more defense. Those there's not a lot of them, so I try not to list them in this general gearing category. But overall, let me know if this helps at all. And good luck on your crafts, guys. Thank you so much. I'll keep continuing these new player guides. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next one. Get ready. I got an account review coming up for y'all with a very spicy player. I think you'll enjoy it a lot. All right. See you guys soon. Peace out, everybody.